Hello, my name is Breven. Would you both do me the honor of introducing yourselves and your film?
Hi, my name is Brian Wallace. I wrote and directed our film Play On, one of the co-producers with Matt.
My name is Matt Mitchell. I am one of the producers as well as the actor in the film Play On.
Thank you both for this. So I have a deep passion for mockumentaries, right? What you may not know, right? Like the conversation, I mean, I'm pretty sure I worked an event just the other day where, their introduction thing was name one movie that, represents you. And I was like, Waiting for Guffman is like that's my go-to, right? Like my staple core foundation is anything Christopher Guest, but Waiting for Guffman in particular. So I love what you can say with the mockumentary. I love how you can really reveal a character and like from a different perspective. So I would love to know about sort of how you came to this character and how you came to the story. And then I really want to know about you both as creators and artists and filmmakers.
Okay. Well, I could say it's kind of an interesting story. I mean, we had already made a similar mockumentary last year.
Yep.
And so when COVID hit, we were all locked down. And I think Matt and I were both kind of itching to get something going, but nobody had any idea of how to make a COVID safe movie. It was all sort of up in the air.
Yeah.
And so we thought, well, we've already got kind of a model, it just requires one actor and a very small crew. Maybe this is a way that we can try it. And we enlisted a COVID compliance director to make sure everything was legit. Yeah. And just to go through with it. And the initial germ of the idea was that on some previous projects that Matt and I had made together, I would go over to Matt's house to edit, and he had this guitar sitting there, like in his living room on a stand. I said, "Oh, you play the guitar? How cool!" He said, "No, I don't play it. I bought it on sale a couple of years ago, but I'm getting around to it." And I just always thought that was hilarious because it was like right in the living room. It's like, and so you couldn't miss it as a conversation piece. And so, I have stuff like, books on physics that I put in the closet because I haven't read them yet. I don't want anybody to ask me about them. So this thing, the guitar is right in the living room and he doesn't play it. So I said, one day I've got to write something about that just to poke at Matt a little bit and fun. And so this seemed like the perfect opportunity to do it.
And I said, you can go make fun of me, sure, do what you need. I'm good. But I started thinking about it. I actually had that guitar at least 12 years. So it's kind of embarrassing in that respect. 12 years it sat there and I never touched it.
I know.
And I think the first time you picked it up was when we made the movie.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, I mean, yeah, but the whole idea was I had this thing and I was going to play it. I was going to practice and I just never got around to it. It sat there.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have a number of musical instruments in the house. My partner plays them, but I they're beautiful, love them, right? But yeah, and I would say analogous, similar intentions would be, I'm pretty sure I have like from cassette tape to VHS to DVD of different like language things I want to learn, right? But what of them do I none, right? Like, but whenever there's a new medium, right, is when I'm like, oh yes, I'm gonna pick up some tapes or whatever it is, right? Like download some audibles and then
When I die, my entire heirs will have boxes of things I've never touched.
So many things to learn.
Think, it's like if you were put in a museum, you would think I'm this great Renaissance man. I'm just a person who's never gotten around to it. But that sort of fed into our movie Play On because Matt and I have known each other for a very long time. We met in drama school. It hurts to say, but we met in drama school in a previous century. Now at the tail end of that century, but still, I look at the calendar, it's a previous century. And so, coming out into, being in California and sort of getting older and trying to sustain your career in this, you think, okay, my goodness, we got to kind of get on with things. You don't have that much time to waste. And then COVID hit. And it's like, oh my God, we've had a year taken away from us. That's sort of a big deal. So, we try to sort of funnel that into this movie because even though it starts with just sort of making fun of my friend who's got a guitar he doesn't play, it was a safe way to try to make a COVID safe movie. And then at the end, I hope I didn't sort of gild that lily too much, but it's also this sort of metaphor, if you will, on procrastination and can you kind of get on with it.
Oh, absolutely.
And even just do your best with what you've got and what you've been given. So
I think one of the themes that I really, really like about it, it is so common. Everybody around the world has kind of faced this kind of thing. I have writer friends who say, you know, they've had an idea in there for 20 years. They've never written anything down. Why? Because it's got to be absolutely perfect.
Right.
I'm guilty of it as well. I don't even get started with it because I want it all perfect. And
yeah,
you know, we all want to change that and just jump in and do it. It's our
I
philosophy.
know. It is an artist struggle for sure. And I like pulled from your bio, right? I just think it's so genius how you described it, right? Gentle characters doing unremarkable things, right? I just like, it's comedies about excruciatingly normal characters doing unremarkable things. I love it. It's genius.
Thank you.
I could literally watch that sort of content on a very regular basis. And that's why, you know, I do, my shout out is always Christopher Guest, right? Because I can watch that endlessly and be entertained and delighted, and like in sort of nuance of the human experience is, you know, the way it's represented is so approachable and charming and and heartfelt.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because you know, this is our second one we've made, and originally I thought, oh, I'd like to make 6 of these because I think you know, that's enough content to sort of package. Mm-hmm. But then after this one, I mean, I don't know. I have to ask what Matt says and our other the partners on this. But I'm wondering, like, are we getting sick of making it already? If it's something that you could make, you know, kind of easily. You know, I wonder, and I've often wondered, okay, is the mockumentary kind of, you know, is it done? But it's interesting, we've had it in a couple of other festivals, and our previous one was in some festivals, and it was in with some documentaries. And I had to correspond with some of those folks, and I was like, oh my goodness, I made a mockumentary, you probably hate me, you know, it's just very heartening when you see all these documentary filmmakers who respond positively to it.
Great, that's nice. Yeah, you never know. Sometimes, go ahead.
I would say, I think it's definitely something to explore more. I love the idea of having a package of a bunch of things together as a theme. I think it works very well. As Brian was alluding to earlier, we actually had other things planned that we wanted to shoot that we could not because we had some weather difficulties. And then the pandemic hit and that shut everything down. And this was so simple. And Brian came along at the right time as far as being able to write it during that time, and we were able to shoot it. And now, I mean, you can knock these out pretty good. I think there's a lot more to explore.
Yeah. So that leads into like, what are you working on next, and sort of what the next characters, the next projects? Will it be, you know, yes, I say yes to more of these, please. Okay. Right. But then also what else are you working on? And understanding that we all have those ideas, right, that have been sitting there for 20 years that you haven't necessarily done anything with yet.
Well, as far as the mockumentaries are concerned, and right, I've got 2 in mind that I guess, you know, we can go ahead and make. In fact, one would be about it's sort of the first draft of this one. There was a little note in it about the guy talking about his mother had another little sort of mundane hobby, but I took it out because that's going to be too long. But I'm thinking that might be the germ for a third one. Yeah. And then I had an idea because Matt and one of our other partners was like, okay, Brian, you have to be in one of these because we've each taken our turn in these. So I thought, well, maybe about the director who makes these mundane documentaries about average people. But I think that beyond that, there are 2 main things. One is that we had a couple of projects, as Matt just mentioned, that were shut down during the pandemic. And one of those, we already kind of had the groundwork laid. So I think we just kind of want to go ahead and get that one done because it's still very strong for us. And then we've got a new partner that has come on board with us, and we're kind of pitching a comedy web series that we're trying to get off the ground. And so it's badagentshow.com. If anybody's interested in going to that and taking a look at our pitch site. And giving us some pointers, because it's sort of the first thing that we've have been trying to go outside of our own circle to try to create and bring more people in. So it's going to be a big step for us. But one of the things that in terms of writing the stuff, I wanted to use the pandemic and the lockdown to just churn out as much as I could, that all those ideas that were sitting there, because I didn't want to come out of the other end of this with nothing to show for it. So as far as the writing is concerned, and to the extent that Matt and our other colleagues are interested in anything I've written, you know, I've got a pile of stuff ready to go. Nice. And I think that also we're trying to just use this downtime to learn more skills. It's one of the things that brought Matt and me together as the germ of all of this, is that we wanted to try to, as actors and budding filmmakers as people getting older in the LA area, you know, it's sort of like, okay, nobody's going to hand it to us anymore. So we have to figure out what we don't know now. So a lot of that on my end, and I know on Matt's as well, is about sort of deepening skills that we already have and acquiring ones that we don't have anymore, except for playing the guitar, apparently. So.
And just to piggyback on that, I want to say too that it is about learning skills. So some of it is we try to do things as budget friendly as possible. Like I do a lot of photography, and that's where a lot of the camera stuff comes from. Our other friend, that's one of our partners, had some sound equipment, and that's basically all we've used, along with natural light and little lights here and there. And we've rented a few things, but keeping things very budget on where we're at. Obviously, we want to move in that direction of being able to do higher budgets with higher end production quality and stuff like that. But even in these stages, everything is a learning experience, and we're just trying to learn each more and get better with each movie we make. And I think so far, I mean, we made a few films so far. I think each one we are improving as we've gone along. They've all gotten better as we've moved on.
And if I can just, because I've been poking fun at Matt this whole conversation, I want to brag on him a little bit, because he is one of the most amazing cinematographers I've ever seen in my life. And so one of the things, no, I'm serious. And one of the things that we have used this time out is that every so often, Matt and I would get together. I would follow him around whenever he got a new camera or something, and we would just go take test footage. And we've got footage, amazing footage of his building downtown. He got a drone we took, and he's been out there when he got that. And we've got all this various test footage sort of stacked up. That's just some of the most amazing moving images that anyone has, certainly I have ever seen.
It's our own stock images, right? We're making our own stock.
Nice, I love it. That's great.
Yeah. So, and I think that, you know, if there's a way that we can do more things in the future that kind of works that in, because I just feel like Matt's visual imagination is quite stunning. And I say that with all sincerity. And so I feel like it would be a waste of time and effort going forward if we don't utilize so much of what, you know, he's been able to develop in himself as just as a cinematographer, let alone everything else that he does.
And to piggyback on Brian, I think that's what I enjoy about our group as well. Everybody kind of brings something different to the table. I mean, we all started out as actors, and we've all kind of gone into different things and what we've specialized in. Like I said, I do a little bit of the camera work. Our other friend has some sound stuff. Brian does a lot of writing and directing, and we're able to pull all that stuff together. And we have another partner now who's also a writer and is able to contribute quite a bunch too in his realm. He's also a healthcare professional, and he's the one that helped us out with our COVID protocols when we shot Play On.
Nice. Awesome. Gentlemen, tell me how the festival circuit has been like for you. And I'm asking this with the sort of a second question. So one, you know, how has it been, whether in person or online, or what the experience has been like, feedback. But then what I'm really getting at is, what can we be doing better? So like for us, how can we be better at championing you as an artist through this experience of the festival? You know, how, as we were talking about before, how can we make this less transactional? How can we, you know, be an ally and an advocate to the work that you do moving forward? But first, the festivals in general. Understanding that's what I really want to know.
I think the festivals have been great so far. We've been able to get into, I think, more festivals than we expected to get into when we started doing this. And every movie we've made, we've got one movie that's had almost no love at all. So,
okay.
You know, and so it's like, I think there are a lot of reasons why, but it was accepted into 3 festivals, and it had a live screening earlier this year, which was a lot of fun to go to. They've been very nice to us, and I just really enjoyed the festivals. I was in one. I went to one last week that this movie was in, and it was just a wonderful experience. And I met a lot of people who really resonated well with the film. Saw a lot of other great films there. I mean, I didn't see a bad one. And came back with a couple of potential collaborations of people who kind of want to work with us going forward on other things. So for me, it's been great. I mean, the live ones are always ideal, because, you know, you want to go and you want to meet people, and there's something about sitting in that room with other people with that communal experience of watching the same thing and reacting to the same thing in real time. But I have to say, for those that have gone online, most of them have been expertly curated. I mean, it's really fantastic. I've been looking at the site that had launched for Angaelica, and I'm very impressed by how that's been put together. There was a festival in Michigan we were in a couple of years ago called the Threadbare Mitten Festival. They did that really well. There was one in Florida earlier this year. that when it was curated online, it's so ease of use, but of course you miss a little bit of that, it's a transactional word, but networking, you miss that communion with other people who kind of doing the same thing you're doing. But I would say overall, I really, really enjoy the festivals, and it's been a great experience for us to get to know. And I've seen some of the best films I've ever seen in my life. Films that aren't coming out of major studios that I would not have seen except for being part of this industry and sort of throwing ourselves into it the way that we can.
I would agree. I mean, being able to meet other people that are doing what we're doing, and being inspired by them and us inspiring them and talking about future collaborations has been really, really cool. I was gonna say your site as well. I agree with Brian. It's very user-friendly and very easy to see. I like that you have the talks with the filmmakers all lined up there, very easy to go through there and play those. And I haven't seen that too much in some of the other festivals. So that's one of the things I do really like about your site and the films that you have up there.
Thanks. We're trying, right? We also, I say like our filmmakers, right? We are also on a journey of like learning and growing and getting better. And that's why I asked the question, right? Because I want us to focus on things intentionally that are actually helpful or supportive. There have been some amazing things being forced into being online, right? There have been some benefits to it in regards to talking to filmmakers around the world that in the real, when we were in, as we have in the past, right, been in the real world, we haven't had capacity for that sort of engagement. It was, and we've always had international filmmakers, but not like this, right? Not like the representation that we now have that we're talking to and recording calls with or doing Q&As with. But I do miss the intimacy, right? I do miss the in-person networking and connecting of creators. So as we move forward, I'm interested in sort of taking what's working best and then figuring out like, how can we get back to some of the things we loved in the past and be, focusing on the things that are, like I said, working the most effectively for the creators. I want us to be very creator focused and less about just having, shown your film and then.
Right.
Thank you very much.
I would say even in the live festivals, a lot of times, you have a block and then you'll have a little Q&A with all the filmmakers in that block who can come in. That's lovely, but sometimes it's so short, and because the festivals have to keep things moving because there's so many things to see. And so like I was at the one I was at last week. It was very similar. It's like there were no breaks, but like it was like all day long, and there were nothing more than like a 10-minute break built in. And so it doesn't give you there's not a lot of air to kind of meet and mingle with the other people there. And sometimes, of course, because you have so many, depending on what's happening, some of the blocks are more sparsely attended because some people can't make it or what have you. So I would say that it's kind of about maybe cultivating an audience that goes beyond the filmmakers that are there. So you already have that base there, and just kind of keeping in touch with, and I'm not saying, your festival, obviously, but in a broad general note, anything that kind of can help those filmmakers kind of get to know each other and get, again, ingratiated a little bit with the audience that's already there, like locally. I think that helps. But I mean, again, that's a tall order because there's as you already know, there's so many moving parts to putting something together, and just making it happen every year is a triumph in and of itself. So it's hard to be, I come at it from a perspective that, hey, we've taken the effort to go ahead and make the film and try to get into these festivals and participate with the festivals as much as possible, that there's only so much more you can ask the individual festival to do. We do have to be proactive. And if you're an independent filmmaker, that should be part of your skill set, to be proactive. And if we're able to get it in there, then again, it's like, so for example, sometimes there are these festivals when they've gone online, there have been some filmmakers who haven't really been that involved in it. I'm thinking, well, okay, I understand if it's in Timbuktu and you live in Pasadena, it might be a tall order for you to be there in person. But if the thing's online, you can kind of participate. You can be part of it in as much. And so I always, whenever we're accepted, I try to write to each festival and say, if there's anything I can do to participate that makes it, I'm happy to do it. And we're usually good at that. So I think it's a little mix of anything a festival can do to kind of encourage the social interaction in person. But beyond that, I would say that it's up to the filmmakers themselves to really participate as much as they can.
No, it's really good advice. So we're talking very much about like the sort of the space, I would say like a space for which we have some control, right? That's kind of what we're talking about right now. But my current research lives in the like broader lens now. So just join me in sort of a brainstorming space of the industry at large. What barriers are you currently facing that we could potentially, at minimum, have a conversation about rethinking some of the practices so that we can improve the process for creators so you can keep creating, right? That's the goal I'm looking at. How do we keep artists who are passionate about the work, they're doing the hustle, they're involved in the work, they continue to push forward. How do we make sure you can continue to have opportunities? Throwing that out there, Jen.
I have ideas, but I would like to hear Matt because I answered the last one. I don't want to take anything away from Matt's time.
I mean, I think that if there's a place that like you have the film festivals, for example, and you talk about networking. So having the message boards or having things where people are local to, like if you need a sound guy or you need something or getting people, I found that's the biggest thing. I mean, some of the projects we've used, I've had to ask for favors for different people here or there, or people that are working favors. So obviously getting that network, the networking is a major thing, but having even some of the times other filmmakers that you didn't meet at the festival, if they need somebody and we're able to assist in some way, how would we know it? We wouldn't know it. So, I mean, where on a site, for example, would you have, hey, I'm looking for this person, or hey, we're looking, we have this. That'd be one thing. And there's also little things that go with making movies, obviously, that would be helpful. I mean, we talk about insurance. It's always good to have insurance. We talk about, you know, incorporating, perhaps having workshops or people that can talk us through how you do those things. Other people that have already experienced it, having those videos online that are specific to that thing, you know, like we talk about, you know, incorporating our production company, having somebody that has already put a video on your website saying, this is how you do it, and walks a step by step. Just little things like that I think would be really, really crucial.
Yep, awesome.
Yeah, and I agree with everything Matt just said, which is why I wanted him to talk first, because he usually has these observations. I would say if you had asked me this question like 5 years ago, I would have said something like a clearinghouse. But you know, Film Freeway has changed my life. I don't know. I'd be interested to know what it was like on your end as a festival organizer, because you've been around since before Film Freeway, and then now that Film Freeway is a thing, how has that affected your operation?
Yeah, I mean, we were Without a Box, right? Without a Box had a monopoly before Film Freeway. And they were also great for my needs at that time, right? And so, you know, Film Freeway continues to evolve. Without a Box sort of lived, and they were great, and then then was monopolized by Film Freeway. Both of those services were, I think, at the time, I wasn't, you know, trying to rethink anything. I was trying to learn the space much more and try to figure out how we do what we do. But now I'm trying to sort of lean into researching better practices and what might that look like. And again, at minimum, I'm hoping we have conversations about what could be. But yeah, you know, my research kind of lives in financial models in regards to what it would look like for better support practices. Kind of looking at the current, you know, the industry is very, you know, risk averse, as we all know, but why? What parts of you are risky? And I say, you know, you creators, when you're doing the work, when you're doing the hustle, when you continue to, you know, build your experience, cultivate your skills, develop your own voice through your stories, when you become a savvier small business leader, because every film is a small business of its own, right? Whether it's, what did you say, $64.99 or something like that for you know, for a budget. But from that, with each project, right, we scale up, and you are managing a budget. So then if you know how to do all those things, aren't you potentially reducing your risk with each execution? So I'm interested in the valuation of the artist to say, at what point have you reduced your risk enough to be worth a little bit of an investment to get to the next stage, whatever that is on your respective scaffold, you know? So anyway, I would like to see better practices, because I feel like, and this is all I can ever speak from is my opinion, right? But I feel like a lot of tools are being built from the top down, looking at sort of like with all due respect, it's like if you're writing a check for $10 million or $100 million, there's amazing tools out there for you, right?
Yeah.
To make choices, to make really wise choices. They're incredible. But what if you want to invest $1,000 in a filmmaker, right? Or what if you want to say, like, I just want to help somebody get to that next stage, wherever that is, then where is the risk model for that space? And so that's what I'm really interested in, because I feel like for the filmmakers we've been showing for, this is our 14th year of doing this since 2008. My filmmakers, right? The people that we've been showcasing, like they just need a little bit more to get up. And then
Right.
I'm super excited about their trajectory. But where do you go to get that next level of support, respective of your journey?
Yeah, I would echo what Matt said about, just make accessible mentorship, people who have done the thing that you're trying to do already, and have the time and the inclination to say, hey, look, I've seen your short film over here. I think you got something. I can give you 30 minutes, and walk you through if you just tell me what you want to do. And it's interesting what you're talking about. If people between the difference of 10 million and 100 million and 1,000. Because we've got crowdfunding out there, and that's something that you kind of have to be it's going to be a skill set you have to build eventually. But I think when you're an artist who hasn't had to ask for that yet, it's a big hurdle. And so you and because you don't want to be relying on friends and family, and you don't want, and then even if you do, something like a GoFundMe is sort of like it has the ring of kind of charity. I'm helping you out. Whereas if you were a startup, you go to a venture capitalist. But again, a venture capitalist is somebody who's dealing in millions of dollars, not, hey, I could use $500 for this rental.
Right.
And yet this person sees, oh, okay, I'm going to invest it, but then what's the return structure on that? So, and now here's the thing. A lot of people who just want to make movies or write screenplays and so forth, we haven't necessarily been trained in that. So I don't know. If you're going to give me $500 to rent this camera that only Matt knows how to use, I don't know what to give you on the other end, assuming that, we hit a certain benchmark for that. So I think, but that's where a mentorship would come in handy for something like that. Before I started doing movies, I worked in the theater in New York, and I remember going to some event, and I asked somebody, I said, what would it take for like an average person to invest in a Broadway show? Because it's always these big $1 million millionaires. And I asked, and there was a Broadway producer there. I said, is there a chance for like a sort of a micro producer? Like, okay, I only have it's like when you invest on Robinhood or something like that. You can invest in a fraction of a share. Can you have a fractional investment? And at that time, the lady was saying it's not worth it. There's nothing. And I think that started to inch out. I don't know how successful it is, because I think that Broadway is still a different animal than even I don't know. You would probably know much better than I do, but I would think that if you're investing in a Broadway show, you're probably still going to lose everything. Whereas if you invest in a film, you at least have a little bit, I would think, a little bit more potential return, because a film doesn't go away. If the Broadway show closes, it's over. But if the film has been recorded, it can still be out there, for a while. I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But if there's a structure somewhere between, say, GoFundMe and or Kickstarter and some venture capitalist out there that would help people who are, okay, we've proven we can do this, and I'm not trying to rely on a big studio. And that's one of the things that I would say industry-wide. Again, going back to the pandemic, I've never been much on Twitter, but I try to say, okay, because maybe Twitter's a waste of time, but when you've got time to waste, let me see what's out here. And so I started out on like a playwright Twitter, because I still write stage plays. Okay. And after like 2 months or 3 months on that, I'm seeing all of playwright Twitter is 95% rev. I swear, it was people complaining about things that they don't have, or it was a lot of people saying, hey, I know we're 3 months into the pandemic. If you haven't written a play yet, don't worry. That's what Ben and Jerry's is for. That's what Netflix is for. You're still on the team. And I just thought, these people aren't going to do anything. So I switched over to screenwriting Twitter, and it was very different. It was very aggressive, but it was also very regimented. It was all about, how do you tailor your project to appeal to this person or this studio or something? And how every year they always have like Warner Brothers and Disney, they always have their writers groups, and everybody's trying to get hyped up to be the most marketable to them, so that they will say it doesn't matter what their script is anymore. They just kind of want to get into this group. And I started thinking, well, yeah, because I'm old and unsuccessful, these things don't don't make me feel too worried anymore, because I've lived so long without it. It's like, okay, I just want to write the thing that's going to be interesting. First of all, I will enjoy, but then not every movie, not every script is necessarily intended for a general audience. And that's one of the things I love about Film Freeway, is that they've got festivals out there. It's just like, oh, movies made on mountains featuring cats. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's the niche. And then it becomes really exciting, because I think, I don't know, I mean, when I was on Film Freeway the first time, it was like this, I don't know if you remember the first day you discovered the internet. It's sort of like, I was up for 24 hours straight thinking, okay, I gotta follow, but look at all of this. And I you know what, I probably could come up with an idea about a movie on a mountain featuring cats. So let me put that in the back of my mind. But anyway, that's my rambling, you know.
You want Brian to look up something, just give him a topic. He'll go online and he'll spend 24 hours, you know, learning everything.
I love it. I love it.
I was gonna say too, in the social media thing, where Brian is talking about Twitter. I mean, I love YouTube, for example, and there's so much content on YouTube. But because there's so much content, there's so much bad content.
Yeah.
I really like it, as far as, because we use Final Cut Pro to edit. So if I need to learn how to do something, I can go on there and do it. What I was talking about, like, say your site, for example, having a professional show you how to do something is so much better than, you know, I don't know what I mean, but some 12-year-old kid in Australia who's teaching you this. But that's the only video you can find on that certain subject. Or there's 50,000 videos on there, but you don't know which one is going to be beneficial to you. So, I mean, having a proper website like yours, where you have a professional who's done this and knows exactly and can express it, you know, cohesively, that would be the most valuable thing. Then you wouldn't have to chase, you know, 15 different watch 15 videos to get one little piece of information that you're looking for.
Well,
and it's a double-edged sword here, because you're with the ad. I'm sorry, I just keep rambling up.
Okay.
You can just do like this, and I'll shut up and let you talk anytime that you want to. No, but it's because I'm very much a technophobe. But with this advent of technology, it's like, I remember attending some sort of seminar somewhere, and somebody said, you know, it was a friend of mine who's like half my age. And she was telling me she was doing her rounds with agents and so forth. And one of them told her, you know, her name is Jagger, by the way, so just in case she watches this, I want to make sure I give her the proper credit. She said, you know, this person told me there is no excuse in this day and age, there's no excuse not to have content. And that struck me, because we do have, everybody's got a little movie studio in their phone, even mine. I'm a technophobe, and Matt always makes fun of my phone. I've got an iPhone 5S. I will just tell you, real quick story is that we were
it has to be, because we do have to leave in a second. I have another film.
Okay, sorry. I'm just saying that I was going to take a selfie with Matt at a festival once, and I held it up, and his arm grabbed me, pulled it out, and said, "No, let's use my phone," because he makes fun of my standard, my phone. So just throw that up there.
I love it.
But this phone is the one. There was a movie, a feature film called Tangerine some years ago that was shot on the same model phone as what I'm holding right here, a museum piece though it may be. So then I'll shut up the rest of the time, because I know we're on a time schedule. Sorry.
You know, it's okay. We are actually already over, and so there's someone waiting. But I appreciate both of you. I thank you very much. I thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to more.
Thank you.
Sorry, say that again, Matt.
We're honored to be in your film festival. Thank you very much.
Very much so. Very much. Very grateful to be here. Very grateful for your attention. Thank you.
Very, very generous of you to say. We are grateful that you are here, and seriously, like, look forward to more conversations moving forward, and however we can be supportive best in regards to what it is we're doing. We're excited about what you're doing. So thank you both.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.